Hello and welcome to a brand new series of Through the Decades, the podcast. And this series, I'm in Polly'sfield, Braintree in Essex, which is an Abbey Fields retirement living development. And just like the last two series, I'll be interviewing 6 retired people telling us some of their incredible stories. And they truly are incredible stories, this series. So make sure to tune in every week to never miss a tale. But to kick off the first episode of Series 3, I'm joined by Brenda, who is 75 years young. So Brenda, do you want to kick off the episode by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and a bit about your life?
Well, it's a bit difficult, really, isn't it? Where do you start? I actually was born in Great Maplestead.
Yeah.
And I lived there till I got married. Then I moved to Pedmarsh. And then I moved to Earl's Cone, where I stayed for 54 years. Wow. And then moved here. But, when I left school, I worked at a place in Sudbury, Vanner's, the silk weaving. In fact, they only closed down last year. And I worked there. I went to primary school at Great Maplestead and then secondary school at Civil Hedingham. So
let's maybe start at the beginning. What do you remember about the place that you grew up? How was life growing up for you as a child?
Well, I suppose we were very naive because it was a little village with not much going on, but we had a bus 3 times a week into town. We moved. My mum and dad lived, when I was born, they lived with my grandparents. And the house we moved to, I was 3 months old, and they'd just built these new council houses, and we moved in there. And there was 8 houses, so, it is a small, and was a small, very small village. It was very basic to what you are now. I mean, these were brand new houses and they didn't have running water. The only running water you had was a rainwater tank, and it was a tap over the sink from the rainwater. And then when we got a bit older, me and my brother used to have a trolley with buckets, and you used to walk up the road to the pump to get water. And there was no electric, no electric on at all. We had oil lamps, and that's. But when you're brought up like that, you don't think anything of it. I mean, now, your age, you couldn't live like that, would you? Yeah. You definitely couldn't live like that. I mean, my mum, in all her life, never had a washing machine. Wow. But it was, I can't remember much before we didn't have electric. I can't remember much of that, what it was actually like. But we had the water put on. I was born in 1948, and I think it was about 56 when they put the mains water on. So, and telephones were not something it was the big houses that had phones.
Yeah.
Not any small places. You didn't, it's, as I say, very basic to what you have now. This is just another world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
How was your school life?
Well, the primary school, I think there might have been nearly 30 pupils in the school. Total.
Wow.
We had 2 classrooms, and sometimes some of the lessons, like PE and that, we had a screen, so then the screen was pushed back, so the whole of the school did that, because it was tiny. Mm-hmm. And of course you knew everybody in the village. And then when I went to secondary school, we had a bus that started, I think, Elphinstone, Lamarsh, all that, Pedmarsh, and then it came to Maplestead, and Little Maplestead School went to Halstead School, Great Maplestead went to Hedingham School. But that was quite a big one because I think it was about 800 in that one.
Yeah.
So that was a lot different. And I don't know, I got on quite well at school. I did take the 11 plus, and then I had an oral exam with the headmistress because they could only take so many, and I didn't pass the oral exam. But I felt I was better off being top in the secondary one than bottom in the grammar school.
Yeah. Wow. So what was your first job moving away from school?
Right, I worked in Sudbury, and Maplestead to Sudbury is a little walk, Great Maplestead, and I went for an interview for a job in Sudbury, and the bus came from Sudbury Road near Gestonthorpe, so we had to walk from our house right the way up there. It was snowing and it was horrible. But we went, and that was at Vanner's. Well, it was Vanner's and Fennel's it was called, and it's a weaving place, as I say. It's just closed down last year, and I worked there for a few years, and then I got married.
Yeah. Tell us about marriage. So how did life move after kind of getting married, and then?
When we got married, we hadn't got anywhere to live, but my husband's uncle lived at Pedmarsh, and his wife had died, and they'd got a bungalow, and his uncle had to have his leg off because he got gangrene, and so we rented the bungalow for him and lived there for 6 years, and I had my son there and we lived there for 6 years, and then we moved to Earls Coombe after that, which was a council property then, but quite a few years later my mother-in-law died, and when she died there was property that was left to us, but I think it was about 1973, but we weren't allowed to do anything with it because the person who was living in it was some relation, and she'd left it in the will that she lived there rent-free till she died. So then when she died, we sold it and bought our house, which cost us £21,000.
Crumbs.
Yeah.
Not like the prices today.
Yeah, so we did buy that, yeah, and as I say, we lived there. And my husband, he was in the Navy for 12 years, but he came out just before. I knew him because we lived in the same village, but he was 12 years older than me, so basically we were two different worlds then because of the age difference. And then we met in the pub because the pub was the only thing in the village to go to. So, and we used to have darts teams and play in there, and that's where I met him in there. And then I packed up work when I had my son, so after he got a bit older I did loads of little different sorts of jobs, but it's just that you fitted round school then, didn't you?
How was life without going to work, if that makes sense? Giving up your job because of your children. How was life like that?
It's okay. I mean, my mum still lived at Great Maplestead. I lived at Pedmarsh, and I used to push him in the pram over to mum's a couple of times a week. I used to walk there, and we had in Pedmarsh a bus a couple of 3 times a week and no more. So then I used to go on the bus into town on the day that it went, and she did, and I'd meet my auntie and all of them there. But they used to have a bus to Sudbury on a Thursday, and from Cone until the lockdown they always had a bus to Sudbury, which was quite fascinating because you go on the bus and you go along the main road, and one woman, she used to say, right, now can you stop at so-and-so's, because then I'll go and get her shopping list. So off she'd go and get a shopping list and then come back. and the driver, he used to wait. I mean, it was a proper service bus, but he used to wait in town till we come home. And then he'd say, now, are we all here? You know, we wouldn't go until everybody's there. Right, now, whose have I got to stop off for the drop the shop? And until the bus stopped going to Sudbury through lockdown, it ran the same type of thing. It was like that. It was quite funny to go on the buses. Somebody got off the bus and they said, somebody's dropped some oranges. So the driver said, can somebody pick up their oranges? He said, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to phone my friend while you're doing that. So, there was one woman, oh God, she was quite old, and talk about rude, and you'd get on the bus and you'd sit down and she'd say, that's my seat. Or that's so-and-so seat. You can't sit there. And I said to my friend, said we went on at once, and she said, we'd better find another seat. I said, it's a service bus, we can sit where we want. She said, no. And the other end, one woman did, she said to her, because one said to her, can you move, that's my seat. And she said, do you know, I'm sitting in it, so it's my seat, so I'm not moving. But when we left Sudbury, this woman was at the back of the queue, and she put her elbows out and she pushed right to the front. And I thought, they talk about youngsters being rude, but my God, she took business. So that was quite fascinating. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't much to do at the bungalow because it was only small, but no, I used to push him, take him on walks and do things, I suppose. And because you've never done anything, used to anything else, you don't think anything of it. I mean, when I was young, we were the first one in our row to have a television.
Wow.
And it was a slot one. So it was only small, because they were only small then. And you had a sixpence, which you won't even know what it is, but we had a sixpenny slot and that covered the rental of the television, you see. So, and with the main electric, we had a shilling meter. And Mum would say, can you go up the road and see if anybody's got any shillings, because you can't get electric with sort of anything else. You've got to have a slot. Wow. One that fitted in the slots. So, and all the children, because as I said there was 8 houses in the row, all came down ours to watch telly. Wow. And it used to come on, television used to come on, I can't remember what time, tea time. You had a test card otherwise. My mum and the neighbour used to watch the test card because it was fascinating. I mean, I think it was this little girl with a teddy bear or something on it. Because they used to have the test card for if you got a problem, because so the maintenance men could actually get a picture on it. So you had that. And say they used to come down and watch the television, which came on for children's hour, 5 to... I don't know if it's 4 to 5 or 5 to 6. It was only on for an hour.
If you could go back to any age or any year in your life, what would it be and why?
I wouldn't want to be young. I wouldn't want to be your age. Not now.
Why is that, just out of curiosity? Why would you not want to go back to young years?
Because you learn a lot after that age, and I think at your age you think you know everything but you don't, and then later you start to realise that you know more. You know, but now I think, because we were talking the other day about what age we'd like to be, and I think rather the late 30s, I think. You know, because I mean, when your children grow up, and we started going on holidays. We couldn't afford holidays before, so we started to go on holidays then, and do things that we wanted to do. And I mean, I had a stage where, my dad died when I was about 22, but my mum, she had dementia, Alzheimer's, and she died a few years ago. And I used to look after her. And then my uncle got dementia and I helped look after him. And then my auntie had a leg off and I helped look after her. Then another aunt, she had a problem and I helped that. Then my husband had vascular dementia. So I had him for 8 years like that. And now I think this is my best time of life. I am doing now what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that I'm doing things for myself.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't been able to.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably think, God, you can't do, but I have got a man friend here, which is really nice.
Oh.
Because my husband died a couple of years ago. I had no intentions of moving when he died. And because he'd been in a home for 4 months, I had no intentions of moving. And I used to look on Rightmove, me and my sister, we often phone each other and say, so-and-so's house or not, have a look at this. Yeah. And I did it one day, and this was on there. And it was only artist's impression because it hadn't finished built. And I thought, that sounds really nice. And I thought, that sounds just what I want, just what I need. Because we'd had lockdown, and the only person I used to see was a friend who was disabled, so I used to help her, somebody else. And I just thought, it sounds brilliant. And the next day I kept looking at it, and a couple of days later I found him out. And they said, do you want us to come out? So she came to mine and she was sort of the paperwork, what it was about and everything. And she said, are you interested? I said, if I can afford it, I really am. So I got 2 valuations in and went from there.
The rest is history.
And then after a little while, I thought, do you know, I really must tell my son I've done this, because he's going to be really cross if he hears from somebody that, because he lives at Little Maplestead now. And so I told him, and he said, well, that sounds really good, Mum. So, yeah. And the girls love it, they all want to move in, and they think it's fantastic.
What would you say was the best day of your life?
Oh, I don't know. You have a few, don't you? We've had some nice ones, I mean, my son tried to do me a surprise 70th birthday, but I'm not stupid. My daughter-in-law said, you knew, didn't you? So I said, well, yeah.
Just if we could circle back, if you don't mind me asking.
No.
How was life like caring for a husband who had vascular dementia? Because that must have been such a weight on your shoulder.
He was 12 years older than me, and but I mean, he didn't look. That's his picture. We went on a cruise, and he's a nice man. He was all right, as I say. I had him for 8 years with dementia, vascular dementia he had. But of course, as it goes on, it gets worse. Yeah. And I worked after my son left everything, and we were on our own and everything, I got a job, and that I really loved that. I got a job in the care home, and I really enjoyed that. And I wished I'd have done it earlier.
Yeah.
And of course it was a dementia home. So when he started to get, I spoke to him one day and said, you are getting a bit forgetful now, aren't you? And he said, well, yes. So I said, do you think we should see the doctor? So he said, okay. So we did that, and they had tests, and they said he'd got vascular dementia. And he wasn't too bad then, but they gradually get worse, don't they? And I mean, I didn't have carers because I worked in a care. I thought I could do it myself, so I did. But he used to say, "Do you know what happened to my wife?"
No.
And I used to say to him, no. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
But then one day my son had been, because my son, the worst part of his dementia really, to start with, was my son was in denial. There was nothing wrong with his dad. He wouldn't have it that there was anything wrong with his dad. And it didn't matter what he did, and my sister had words with him, but it still didn't. I don't know when it actually registered, but because for our 50th wedding anniversary, we went with Saga. They do special deals at certain times, and January is our wedding anniversary, and it was our 50th. So we went there, and of course he was getting bad then. And my sister and her husband came with us, so that's why I went. The week of our anniversary, I paid for my son and his wife to come out with us. But he was quite nasty there. He wouldn't have it. My sister said, he was doing things that... One night I had to phone him at 2 o'clock in the morning to say, "Can you come and get your dad out the bath, because he's got in it, I can't get him out." But he didn't think it was anything out of order. Then another night, and he'd gone home, I woke up, I thought, where is he? And he's on the floor. So reception, the bloke came up and helped me get him back to bed. Then this woman came one day and she said, "Can you go and get your husband? He's in the ladies' toilets, he's in the cubicle with the door open." Right. And then my brother-in-law, I said to him, "Can you go in and see what he's doing, because he's been gone ages." And he'd got a thing about tissues, had to have so many, and they had to be folded a certain way, and so many in this pocket, so many in that pocket. Well, what he was doing, the paper towels, as he pulled them down, folded up and put it in his pocket, another one came down. So he was busy doing so. And then another day there wasn't anybody about, so I thought, nobody's been in, the gents only him. I'll go in after and try to wash his hands in the urinals. But then eventually my son did say to me, "Dad doesn't know me, does he?" And one day he said to me, they'd been for his birthday and they'd just left, which I was pleased, because he said to me, "Who was that man? I think I knew his father." And I said to him, "So who do you think his father is?" And he said, "I don't know, but I think it's somebody I should know."
Oh.
So to say, and he was, in the evenings, he was hard work, and they call it sundowning, and a lot of people are like it, and about 6 o'clock at night, he'd go upstairs, and I'd hear him, the drawers, doors, all, he was looking for something. And he'd come down and say, "Will you help me look?" And one day I said to him, "Trouble is, I don't know what we're looking for." And he said, "Nor do I." So that was, which he didn't. And it was hard work, and I used to just sit there and think, I don't care what he's doing, just let him get on and do it. Because, no, as I say, then in the end, I just thought, I really can't cope any longer. And the social worker we had was fantastic, because they're not all good. And he was fantastic, and he got him in the home, and it got him in the home where my auntie was, because she'd had her leg off, and they sent her home, and she just couldn't cope at home, so she went in there, and I used to go and see her on the days my husband went for to the day centre in Halstead twice a week, so I'd go then on the bus to go and see my auntie at the home. So I think I'm a glutton for punishment, don't you? But yeah, hard work really.
Must have been a lot of weight on your shoulders trying to care for him. I broke my ankle the last couple of years before he went in the home. I fell and broke my ankle, and I'm thinking, how the devil did I cope with him with a broken ankle? Crumbs.
You know, you just think, but you do. You just Well,
life
some
goes
people
on.
don't, but I mean, you do. You just get on with it, don't you?
Yeah. Let's move to the present day.
Yeah.
You're living here at Polliesfield. How long have you been living here?
18 months.
And what made you move to this development? I know you mentioned it briefly, you were looking,
Yeah.
but what drew you in? What made you desperate?
I wasn't looking. I wasn't moving. I hadn't thought about moving, and not only that, I always thought, well, I can't afford to move anyway, so I never move. And as I say, my sister used to phone and say, so and so house is on the market, have a look at it, you know. So I'm looking at this, and apparently they didn't used to put this on Rightmove very often, but I just caught it on a day when it was, and I put in Bocking, which I never put in Bocking when I looked. So I think, God, this must meant to be, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I never think like that, but I did for this. So when I phoned them up and they said, well, come and see you, and I brought all the details, and I thought, this sounds fantastic. And then I got the estate agents in, and then I sat with my paperwork and writing down and thinking, right, this is going to cost me so much. Right, I won't have to pay these direct debits because here the gas, the water, the maintenance, the garden, the windows, is all comes out of that one maintenance payment. So it didn't sound so bad. And then all what I was paying out direct debits, I'm thinking, well, I won't need that, and I won't need that, I won't need that. So I was working it out, and I kept thinking, I think I can afford this. And I think it's the best thing I could have ever done.
Yeah.
Really is, because I do curling, I do bowls, I do table tennis, I do line dancing, some of the crafts I do.
Wow.
I do loads.
Just go on and on and on. Wow.
Yeah.
How do you find this type of living? Because obviously it's such
Fantastic.
a big development.
Yeah.
Assisted and independent living combined into one. And there's so much of a social scene downstairs.
Yeah.
How do you find it?
I think it's fantastic because this is mine. I own this is mine. And I can have who I want in here and do what I want in here. Because I think it's brilliant. I thought it was fantastic when I came along. You know, and as I say, some of the girls, my son's stepdaughters, and she's, oh, I'd love a place like this. And they're going, you know, and Michael said, right, Mum, he said, it's over 55, so you can have younger people here than old people. And my son said, God, Mum, he said, tell you what, when I get to 55, I'll put you in an old people's home because I could move in it. So I said, thanks a lot. Oh yeah, I went down to play table tennis yesterday afternoon. We played that. And then there was a couple that had always wanted to live here, came to visit. And so when we finished, we went and had a cup of tea. Well, then my man, he came home. And so he knows this couple, so he sat there. Well, then my friend from downstairs, she came, and she joined us. And then there was 2 or 3 others said, can we join you? And we're sitting on a little table with these chairs are going, getting round and round and round, you know. But it's what happens.
Yeah. With all of that in mind, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Would you recommend this type of living and this development?
Brilliant, yeah.
So I'm going to end this episode in the way that I've ended every single episode. What one piece of advice would you give to younger generations listening?
I don't know, really. I don't know. I mean, I know when you buy a house, when you get married now, you expect everything, don't you? You expect everything that you need, your washing machine, your everything. And people say it's difficult for youngsters now to get a mortgage. But I always think when I was their age, you actually, what I had in my house, I never had a Hoover. I didn't have a washing machine till my son was 6. We didn't have a freezer. We didn't have a fridge. You didn't have all that, and you didn't think anything of not having that. But now the youngsters, they expect it all, don't they? I've got things that I still use that I had for a wedding present.
Wow.
And I've got a tray down there that I had for a wedding present, and my son said, can you imagine giving somebody now a tray as a wedding present? And I think they expect too much, honestly do. Because mostly that's how they've been brought up now, isn't it?
Well, we've reached that time already. Thank you, Brenda, for joining me today and sharing some very interesting stories. Make sure you join me next week with my next guest, Jeanette, who'll be here sharing her stories through the decades, including being a professional swimmer. Yes, that's happening on next week's episodes. And other than that, all that's left for me to say is make sure you share the podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music or YouTube, and I will see you next week.